You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Rosie, big question for you to start off today's podcast. So your job's on the line. This is all hypothetical. Your job's not on the line. Your job's on the line. You have a big board meeting with your bosses. What are you wearing?
Something cute, something that makes me feel confident and sexy, I guess.
So not a tuxedo.
Who wore a tux? Big boy. Is that me today?
No, I'm just asking, like if you're Brendan Shanahan, I think the writing is on the wall, and I think it's a formality. It's over, man. They granted permission to the Islanders to speak to you. This is a formality, is it not?
That's what I thought. I'm like, well, that's the end of Shanny. Everyone's like, has that been confirmed? And like, what do you think this means? I'm like, what do you think it means? You think you're bringing the guy back after you're like, yeah, feel free to talk to him and like offer him a contract? I don't know. Oh yeah, we want. I'm like, it's so weird. So I just took that as, oh, that is the release. Like, is that not the press release? Like, Shanny's not going to be with Toronto anymore. They're telling other people they can hire him. Like, just weird that was questionable to people. Maybe I'm out to lunch, but in my mind, he is 100% not the president anymore.
You were on a tweet spree last night, so you are my source of information on X, and you did put that out, Shanahan done in Toronto, so maybe you're on it first.
I'm still wilded out by information people need to get to first, and whatever you read that you don't. If you want him to be your president, you don't give him permission to do. And if you like, do you really think he's going to still be with the Toronto Maple Leafs after they said, yeah, other teams can talk to him and offer him a contract, and like he's free to kind of like leave, but we want him back, but he's still going to be with us? Like, what are you talking about? What world am I living in? He's gone.
Cheese Wizard writes in, my sources are telling me that Brian Burke will be the new team president. You think we get to interview Burke if that happens? Probably not. Can anybody in the organization?
Berkey's not coming back, that's for sure.
Never know. Never say never. Our charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. So more on Shanahan coming up, but I want to get your honest assessment on the diarrhea we saw last night from the Edmonton Oilers. The first 40 was great, then a complete meltdown there in the third period in Dallas.
And a tough timing of your tweet.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know, man. Like, I have been hard on the Oilers all year. I mean, they're awesome, and are they ever fun to watch? Like, if you're an Oilers fan, every game is just like fantastically exciting, for good sometimes and for bad, like last night. But there's no shortage of excitement throughout those games, especially just watching McDavid and Draisaitl alone. But they're so fragile and finicky, and their high is so good and their low is so bad. I've compared them to the Leafs for a long time, desperately wanting to win, having those, but late as of last year, obviously they've had a ton more success, but you can't stay out of the box. And then after completely dominating the first, half of the game, just like wham, 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 like the wheels fall off. And that's what scares me. Sometimes their defensive breakdowns scare me. Skinner scares me. And I just don't know how, you can call them the front runner all season long with all those ups and downs, but they do find a way, and sometimes in spectacular fashion. I don't think they're going to be in big trouble. I don't think Dallas looked very good through the first half of that game at all. Like, they weren't moving their feet. They gave them so much time and space. I don't think that's going to happen all series long, but they're going to clean up their penalties, clean up their defensive zone, and I think they're going to be just fine.
For the record, my tweet intimated that the Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup. Not even the mighty Florida Panthers can stop them. It was 3-1 at that point. I still hang with that. I love hockey for so many reasons, but the overreaction, generally speaking, to game ones is great more times than not. They got a lot of things to clean up, and that was the big thing I said going into this series was goaltending. I didn't think Jake Ottinger was excellent or great in that game, but Stuart Skinner, like the timeliness of the saves, you need to come up with a big stop in the third, and he couldn't answer the bell, unfortunately, for the Oilers.
Yeah, I guess he'll take some of that heat, but just defensively running around and breaking down, sometimes the Oilers are just like, God, how did you just how did the wheels come off that bad? After like really dominating, like buzzing. Sometimes I try to watch a team and say, okay, pretend this team's the Leafs, and then how would you think of it? And to see, I mean, nobody's McDavid, but the way they can rip around in the ozone and just give it to Leon with just a little bit of speed, I guess, just going wide, pull it to your forehand, far side, thank you. I'm just like we were saying, why can't Austin just do that in the playoffs?
He can't even get in the zone. Never mind get to the net or get close to the net. But yeah, that was vintage Draisaitl, man. Shelf in a hurry. And that passing play in general, like McDavid was going last night, Draisaitl was going. And that would concern me if I were the Oilers, that I played a really, really damn good game in the first 40, very dominant, in fact. And then you lose that game and you give Dallas life. Like a big story going into that series, the bottom six has done next to nothing. Where have we heard that story before for the Dallas Stars? And now they get cooking and they get confidence and they score some goals. And Heiskanen's back in the mix the last couple games. Like confidence is a big thing. I know there's a lot of people who say there's not momentum from game to game and series to series in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but there is confidence for sure. I can tell you that.
Well, yeah, you don't get that far without kind of knowing who you are and doing a lot of good things. Dallas hasn't even had some of their depth going yet. They got on the board last night. That could break open some floodgates too. Time will tell, but their goaltending battle, yeah, like you said, Ottinger wasn't phenomenal, but their best is certainly favors Ottinger, and I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting because I think Dallas might. They're pretty happy with themselves and might feel like they maybe stole one a little bit. I feel like they're overwhelmed for the 2/3 of the game. On the other hand, the Oilers are going to try to fix that, get back to playing the first 2/3 of the game. I mean, if they can play like that all the time, it's game over. But they have that tendency to have the wheels fall off, and it's usually quite exciting to watch.
The playoffs in general are crazy because you see a team in the first 40 minutes, you're like, man, they're dominant. And then something just happens. How often does that happen in a playoff game where you think one team is in full control and then they show up for the third period? It was very nonchalant, very like preseason, no urgency, no desperation. They let the other team back in the fight and then they just keep scoring and scoring and scoring. It was fun to watch as a fan, but I can only wonder as like as a fan of that team specifically, or the coaching staff or a player, how much that hurts because it's the first of four, and now you've let Dallas back in the series because they didn't even play their best game and they found a way to win that game.
Well, you let them lead the whole thing. The Edmonton fans, I got lots of them as buddies, and they're so used to it. They're not surprised by anything. Yeah. They have seen the most drastic highs and the drastic lows and everything in between. But when you're in the playoffs and you have that lead and you're trying to hold on to it, sometimes you're just kind of looking at the clock, hoping it ticks away, but you're always playing a really high quality team on the other side. And when they decide to turn it on and you maybe rest on your laurels a little bit or just kind of back off and want the clock to run out, oftentimes you see them, they find a little bit of momentum and it just snowballs on you.
At any rate, let's get back to the Maple Leafs conversation. A series of big board meetings happening today to break it down. Luke Fox of Sportsnet.ca and the Leafs beat all season long, has been for the last couple years, will drop by. And we're going to get to the bottom of all this. But yeah, I think your curiosity is there with me too off the top, where it's like you're granting him permission to speak to another team, yet he's still your employee. I think the writing is on the wall, at least for me. This is a formality. Shanny's done, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that's 99% where my head's at. The question is, anybody else, any other big changes, any surprises? Is that president role going to exist anymore? Which I don't see why it should. Like, I'm old school. You got your coach who does stuff in the room and on the bench and coaches the players, and you got the general manager upstairs who picks the team and puts the players in place for the guy to coach. Like, what's the point of other stuff? It just breeds indecision and who's in control, blocking things and going in this direction, but this guy wants this direction. It's just like, what the hell are you doing? You find a man who's got the vision of the ownership, agrees with and has trust in, and you let him go to work. Like, that's Brad Treliving right now, if you ask me. And I think most of the moves that he's made have been good for the team and what this team needs as far as getting better in the playoffs and playing a style of hockey that's better, getting a coach behind the bench that plays a style of hockey that's going to be better for these guys. They've had more success this year than they have in forever. And it's kind of the opposite of what that Shanahan plan was and what Dubas wanted to do. And I think that, that was the risk of doubling down and running it back and really believing in having this somewhat obscure construction of a team by having, a $55 million power play or whatever it is, and having all your eggs in these 4 players basket that they're all the same type of player in a lot of ways. And they're, there's not a lot of contrast there. And I don't think they were deep enough as far as having a lot of boxes checked on what it takes to be successful in the playoffs. They have a whole bunch of high talent individuals without really playoff success or experience and without really any grit to speak of, but you double down on that over and over again. It has come to an end somewhat spectacularly if you want to talk about the last 3 games of that series. And because of that, the changes are going to be made. That's just how this game works, if you ask me, from all the experience and history that you can look at this NHL. You don't come back from that.
You don't. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, hit that like button, hit a subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit LeafsNation.com. Again, Luke Fox coming up in about 20 minutes of Sportsnet.ca. But I'm curious how these board meetings go. Like, I know it's part of the process. You're going through the motions, but I would love to know, like, the inner findings when they dissect and break down Brendan Shanahan's job over the last 11 years. Like, it can't just be results oriented, or he'd be gone like 4 years ago. No.
Yeah, I don't have a clue how those things work. Like I can't. They're not going to fire him in front of the whole MLSE staff. Like that's a private conversation. I wouldn't be surprised if Shanny's already been told that he's not going to come back, and he's not even a part of that thing, of that meeting at all. I think that the changes would have been made behind closed doors, and then you have that board meeting with the people that are going to move forward, and you analyze, who's not coming back and why. You analyze where you were headed and what happened, and then you come up with a new plan, a new strategy, and a new direction, and then you announce who's going to take you there, and everyone claps, and you say it's a really exciting time for MLSE, and you do the whole boardroom thing. That's as good as I can guess. But as far as it being, spectacular and newsworthy, I don't really see it. I think they're going to announce who's not coming back, and that will be the news. And I imagine that decision has kind of long been made.
Man, the interesting thing for me is, like, I was around the team more than I have been in recent memory this season, and specifically at games with a media pass, and don't recall seeing Brendan Shanahan very often, which is dissimilar to previous seasons where he hasn't been accessible. He hasn't been available. He hasn't been around the team, at least in my opinion, much. And I know a lot of other people have said that too, and maybe the writing has been on the wall, but I think results has to play a chunk of it. I know a lot of people, the pushback is, well, the gate. You could put Jay Rosehill in the president's position. You're going to make money. No offense, Rosie. I don't mean that to you, but I'm saying I think it's got to be a chunk of the conversation. But I think results, any gig in that echelon will say results need to be part of the convo big time. And the fact that you sit down, you have 2 series victories in 11 seasons. It's time to move on. Like, that's a long, long piece of time, especially in this day and age of the NHL where it seems like shelf life's like 2 years.
That is a long time, man. He had a long time to put this plan together, and it didn't work out to expectations, and everyone has their opinion on why that is. But I don't think if you're concerned about the money MLSE makes, which why would they be concerned about that? They print it hand over fist. It doesn't matter if they're winning or losing. It is the biggest market in Canada. There is a ton of people there. There is a ton of money there. You're never not going to have a full building. You're never not going to have the merchandise flying off the shelf all over the world. And even if that was a concern, why would you bring in Brendan Shanahan to fix your financial issues? He's there for hockey. He's the hockey mind. He's a Hall of Famer who is there to try to build a winning hockey team. Because at the end of the day, even the suits up top, they know that the best way to make more money is to win on the ice. So I don't get that take at all. And I don't even get the president position. I get having other people around for a sounding board and for opinion, but you need one guy and one guy only to do the day-to-day, and which to me is, analyze the team, analyze the contracts, talk to rest of people in the league, talk to agents out there, and just try your best at the important parts of the season, which is July 1 and the trade deadline and everything else that goes along with running a hockey team's specific players and roster. That's the general manager. And he's got final say on, no, this is a guy we're going to make, or yes, we're going to make this trade, or yes, we're going to sign this guy. And I don't understand why you would need more people and convolution with that process, with having a president who can veto things and block stuff in different directions. Like, what the hell? Like, that's just a recipe for disaster, if you ask me.
Of course, we remember a time when the same person would be the GM and the head coach. Pat Quinn was notoriously known for that.
That's wild.
And I know the position has changed quite a bit, but you're right. Like, some of these positions, and it's our understanding too here that they're gonna purge some things a bit and streamline the situation a bit, because it's wild for me how the concept will change in 2 to 3 or 4 short years, where it's like, we're going to bring as many people in as possible. We want to flex our financial muscles, to now we're going to get rid of all these people and streamline the positions again, which makes more sense. Just because you have all these cooks in the kitchen doesn't mean your food's going to be 5-star. I don't think it works that way. And we've seen that firsthand, haven't we?
Yeah, it's kind of funny how companies go through different strategies, and there's periods and eras of time where they change their strategy. And I mean, they went hard on this Shanna plan, and that include Dubas and these players in this era. Didn't bring the success that they wanted. In a different world, different timeline, it easily could have gone different. The margins are thin in this business, as everyone has found out. You could have played. Someone mentioned on the TV the other day, if the Leafs played New Jersey, Washington, they very well could be in the Eastern Conference Finals. If they played LA, Las Vegas, they could easily be in the conference finals. But it's just, you're in the division you're in. You play the teams you play. If you were one game away from getting there, but you failed spectacular at the 11th hour. So now big changes are going to be made. If they would have just, not dropped the ball so bad in game 5 or game 7, they could be there. And I think that, we talked about what does a successful season look like at the beginning of the year. And I always said, I think the conference finals, you get to, a couple of games away from the final, and, that's pretty successful. I mean, you're down to the nitty gritty, but they fell short of that, and now changes are going to be made because it's been a long time coming. They were on their last legs running this back, and the market decided and the fans decided, unanimously that they need to blow some of this stuff up and make some serious changes.
Play the role as a player. Does this matter at all what happens here with this shakeup, Brendan Shanahan and others?
To a degree. I mean, just, personal preference. People would like to, when there's a coach that comes in, there's guys on the team that are ecstatic and there's guys on the team that are worried. And when you have a coach, some guys love them, some guys hate them. Like, it's always different. And I think as a coach, you try to be the coach that everybody can play for and respects and wants to work for and pull on the same rope. And when it comes to a GM, it's just less so. But it has a bearing on your life and where the direction of the team is going, and your style of play may or may not be conducive to that guy's, mentality and strategy. But aside from that, it's not really like a huge deal if Shanahan's there or not to the guys that are going to be coming in and playing in that sweater.
Fair enough. I just always wondered that how much guys truly care, especially about a president. Like, we're not talking about the GM, we're not talking about the coach or an assistant coach, but nevertheless, like, this is just my opinion, but there's a reason, for me at least, the Islanders have exhausted this search for a president to replace, if you will, Lou Lamoriello and that type of gig. I think they've been waiting for this guy. I think it's no surprise, at least in my world, his affiliation to John Collins, his affiliation to the area. I would be shocked if Brendan Shanahan doesn't end up with the New York Islanders. I think this has been in play for a variety of different weeks, and we'll see it play out. But yeah, that's my intrigue, is that like he technically is still employed, but your employer just let you talk to somebody else. Like, you have to know. He's got to know what's going on by now. You saw his face when they got eliminated.
Oh, 100% he knows what's going on. I guarantee he's already been told. This is kind of, like you said, a formality. The decisions have been made. It sounds like they were made beforehand. If we do this, okay. If we don't, here's what's going to happen. And obviously, I don't think that ownership is happy with this season. The success they had is good, but the expectations are just so much higher for this time period with this group after all they've been through. And it's a done deal, if you ask me. I mean, I don't have the inside information, but I mean, like, on what planet is Brendan Shanahan going to be part of the Toronto Maple Leafs again after the things that they have said? It's silly. It's people predicted it before, and now they've announced he's going to go talk. Like, what are we even talking about? He's going there.
Yeah, I thought he should have been cooked a couple years ago. That's just my opinion. Sudsy53, your boy, he's back with a super chat here in support of Sick Kids. Gabby for Lambert. If you guys didn't know, Lane Lambert also got permission. The Leafs granted permission to the Seattle Kraken to speak to Lane Lambert about their vacant head coaching position. I think the day for Gabby Boudreau to be a coach or be back with the Maple Leafs organization is long gone. It would have happened couple years back. They haven't done it. Unfortunately, like, I love Gabby and I want to see him run this power play, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, you kind of already got Savard in there, and he doesn't no indication that he's going anywhere. Yeah, I know. It's wouldn't hurt my feelings if they brought in anyone different to look at that power play, but the power play is going to look different. I think next year, as far as player personnel goes, anyways. But to bring Gabby in, I like him too. It's great talking to him, and he's a good shit. But to bring him in there, and he's a former head coach who won, and then Craig Berube and the personalities. It's just you're just asking for problems. I think they're going to kind of keep it like they are. If they lose Lane Lambert, they'll find someone that can slide in there nice and seamlessly. But I just don't see Boudreau being on the radar.
It's pretty crazy, and I know they've only been in the league for 5 or 6 years, but I wonder if more teams start to adopt the mentality and approach of the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, I can't believe, I'm floored. We're sitting here after 11 years, and how much change has there truly been, Rosie? Whereas Vegas, it's like, March, so you win the Conn Smythe. Nah, we don't got room for you. No thanks. We can't do it. See you later. There's so many examples of that, and ultimately it brings them a Stanley Cup. And maybe that's not the way to do business, but Vegas doesn't seem to mind at all whatsoever.
Yeah, and it is a copycat league. It seems like someone has success going in this direction. A bunch of teams follow suit. The eras change. I honestly think Toronto got too caught up in the new style of hockey and the new way that it's being played since, I don't know, call it the last lockout in 2012, and the protection for players, the physicality being drawn back, concussions being at the forefront of player safety, and the emphasis on skill. All that kind of came together, around the time that this core four got together. And throughout the regular season, the skill players, man, they can show their skill. We've seen plays and goals like we've never seen before. The Sticks nowadays do things that are incredible. The way these kids have grown up with their training, their specialty, they're one sport athletes, and they are from the time they're 5, and they're pretty incredible. And I think they doubled down on, let's get as much skill as we possibly can. The league's not, the time when Shanahan played anymore. You're not going to see that Colorado-Detroit brawl anymore in the playoffs. So let's build that. But I just think they overshot it. And you look at the playoffs, and no one's doing what Scott Stevens did to everyone that he did out there, but it is still a big boy game. You have to have grit. You got to have guts. You got to have balls. You got to be a man. And those are the guys that win the cup every year, the guys that adopt that type of thing. And I just think that was lost on the Leafs. They wanted to build this highly skilled team that they thought they were going to outscore everybody and lift the Stanley Cup. It didn't work. And it didn't work time and time again. They doubled down on it. And now the people that did, I think it looks like the writing's on the wall that they're going to pay the piper.
And they should, quite honestly. It gets me. I don't want to call them wasted years, but had they pivoted sooner to this type of mentality, dude, we saw this year. They went to Game 7 with the defending Cup champs in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. At the very least, they were almost halfway there. In recent memory, it's like, let's win a series and go from there. You're still not anywhere part of the equation in terms of Lord Stanley, but I just wish they had pivoted sooner to the right mentality. Like, case in point, the 4 teams remaining in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I know Carolina's an analytics darling, but they play a heavy brand. They play a team brand. I mean, they don't have a superstar player. They have some really good players like Aho and Svechnikov and Slavin, but there's no like bona fide superstar. And I think you look around and these 4 teams that just play heavy and tough and strong. And it's a lot different than the way the Maple Leafs played prior to this season at the very least. So at the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Luke Fox is coming up with Sportsnet.ca. Just wanted to go over the Coles notes from Chris Johnson's really good article over at The Athletic, I guess a couple days back now. So he said the bar ownership set for progress this season was an appearance in the Eastern Conference Final, which I thought was interesting. The way the Florida series ended left ownership disappointed/embarrassed, and Leafs will likely go no team president if they elect to move on from Shanahan. But I think obviously the big thing that caught me was the first one. Like your barometer is the Eastern Conference Final. Like, what are we doing here, man?
Well, I don't think they meant that's all we want. They thought, we'll consider continuing on the direction we're going if they can get there and show that they're close. But falling short of that, they'd make significant change. And I think that obviously, there's been a lot of talk about continuing on or not. And there is a term for it. It was running it back, and it's committing to the direction we're heading and not changing course. And I don't know if egos get caught up in that, but certainly time spent and players and relationships, like who would go, do you not sign Willie? Was that the thing to do? Do you not sign Austin? Was that the thing to do? It's tough. And I just find like, hindsight's 2020, but you sit where you're at right now and nobody knows what the future holds. But this was the most successful season they've had. They've played the best hockey they've had this year. What was changed? Well, Tree Living brought in some dogs. Like, look at our back end. You're coached by Craig Berube, who demands a certain style of play and demands a commitment to that. And what fell short? It was the players and the stars and your leadership that was silent, that didn't have the grit or the grime and didn't have the passion or whatever you want to call it, whatever description you want to put on it. They were quiet, they were timid, and they accomplished, well short of what was needed to get the job done. So now it's 100% time to go in the Tree Living and Berube direction, if you ask me, which is kind of the opposite of what the Dubas and I guess Shanna plan was in this past era.
The big thing for me is that they bent over in negotiations, putting it nicely, I think. Like, all these guys won their negotiations. They gave them the money. They gave them the no trade clauses. And I thought it put Brad Tree Living in a terrible position when he took over this job. And now finally he has an opportunity to reimagine this roster. But to me, it set the precedence for everything to come when you're losing negotiation, giving all these guys they want and not pushing back and saying, hey, you haven't won shit in the playoffs, but you got 98 points in the regular season. Here's $10.93 million per season. Just an example. You can make the case for every guy. And then Tree Living comes in. I think he had a really good negotiation with William Nylander. I think he earned some money on the contract going to his walk year, but 11.5, 7 more years. Sign me up. I mean, Rantanen just signed for 12, but I got no qualms with that. I think it's a really good contract, but therein lies, I think, the issue with all this is the way they negotiated in the past. And I'll be honest, Brad Tree Living has a really good track record of contract negotiations. It makes me a bit more easier and happier.
Well, there's people in Calgary that would argue with you there, but I think if you look at what he's done in Toronto, I like the direction he's going. I think I see the vision and the strategy, and I think it's what they need. I understand back in the day, it's hard to let those guys go. Guys are holding out between Willie and maybe to a lesser extent Mitch, and they kind of always caved and gave them what they wanted. But I get at that time, you didn't want to let those guys go. There's such a history of losing players to go on and flourish and have success elsewhere. That's like a deep history with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they didn't want to do that. But their commitment now, you put your balls on the line when you commit to that plan and double down and run it back. And unfortunately for them, it didn't work. And now change is coming, and it's already in place with Brad Treliving. I think this guy's got the vision and the direction that this team needs to go. And I want to let him cook.
Yes, sir. Truly the end of an era for sure. And we'll see what transpires over the next couple days there at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The following interview is brought to you by our Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. As we bring on from Sportsnet.ca, does great work covering the NHL and most specifically the Maple Leafs, it is Luke Fox. What's going on, Foxy? How are you, bud?
I'm doing well. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on.
Good.
Man.
Hey, our pleasure, man. We're just we're going through the motions here, and it feels like the board of governors or the board of directors, with MLSE is doing the very same. Do you expect Shanny back here or what?
No, I don't. I think a lot of people would be surprised, just because it's been 11 years and they've never gotten past the second round, and it's as simple as that. I mean, Keith Pelly, when he took over, he came in and he was like, this is all about winning. We're not just here to sell jerseys. We got to win. We got to win. And once again, they failed to meet expectations. So the fact that his contract's up, the fact that, they've already granted him permission to talk with the New York Islanders, it feels like the writing's on the wall here, guys.
To me, that's an announcement that have you ever seen in any business them grant permission to go out and someone else can take this guy and then out of the blue they say, hey, we're extending him to it doesn't even make sense. To me, that might as well have been a press release saying we're moving on from Brendan Shanahan.
Yeah. Remember when the Colorado Avalanche wanted to talk to Kyle Dubas and they wouldn't let him, right? Because they wanted to keep him and they kept him. So anytime you let a guy talk, it sounds like Lane Lambert's out the door too, right? Like when you grant permission and say, hey, go ahead, take this interview. That to me tells you well, we're not interested, or we're only, partially interested. And yeah, it just seems like a matter of time. I mean, there's so many cooks in the kitchen, even above Shanahan right now, because the sale hasn't gone through and Rogers can't make these decisions unilaterally quite yet, that it's just going through this process, right, of having the board meet. But I think everyone would be shocked at this point if he were to come back.
And it seems to be the consensus that they're going to make more changes than just Shanahan. Do you think it's a bunch of AGMs and stuff like that? They're going to start to streamline this a bit more, I guess?
Yeah, that seems to be the word. I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Because this was once positioned as an advantage the Leafs could have, a strength of the Leafs. Hey, there's no salary cap on guys in suits. There's just a salary cap on the guys in skates. So we can have as many development staff, as many AGMs, as many advisors as we want. Everyone gets their own smoothie. Let's just go over the top with everything that doesn't have to do with the players in terms of spending, in terms of, hires. And I think now they're coming to the realization, well, just because we have all these people and, most of them are qualified, smart, great hockey minds, but at some point, how many do you need? And you look at some of the teams that are going farther than the Leafs. Like if you go do a deep dive on the Hurricanes staff or the Florida Panthers staff, they're not nearly as deep. So, I think there is going to be some streamlining. What names are actually going to lose jobs, I have no clue, but that's certainly the sense, is that there's going to be some cost cutting here.
What about, I'm hearing online, everything's online, but people even talking about Treliving and even Berube being, looked at. Any surprises like that you think are going to come down the barrel? Those guys are safe, or have you heard otherwise?
Well, I don't feel confident saying they're 100% safe, just because the guy who hired Treliving was Brendan Shanahan, right? And the guy who hired Berube was Treliving. So I think it's one of those cases where, ownership was in the building for that disastrous Game 7, and there was a level of embarrassment. I think they're starting to grasp that the fan base is fed up, that the structure of this team in terms of the core isn't going to work. So I think it's one of those cases where it's like, let's take a step back here. Everything should be on the table. That said, I think Treliving, in the limited time he's had, 2 seasons, and the limited control he's had in terms of the main guys all having no move clauses and the power being in the players' hands, which Shanahan gave those players, he has done a great job in my estimation. Are there mistakes? For sure. Does he want the term he gave Max Domi back? I would guess yes. Does he want a do-over on John Klingberg and Yanni Hakanpää? For sure. But, he rebuilt this blue line. He's got one of the best goaltending tandems in the league at a really nice price point. So there is a lot of good there. So, they just judge it on the work he's done and say, let's not cut everyone. Maybe we eliminate the president's position and just have Treliving report directly to Pelly. And I'd say the same with Berube. You can nitpick and say maybe he got a little stubborn at the end and didn't adjust to the Panthers style, or didn't break up Matthews and Marner when things weren't going. And I think those criticisms are fair, but he basically changed their whole style of play to be more playoff suitable, got them to buy in to a north forechecking type of style, got them to block more shots and throw more hits than they ever had, play some stingy defense. I thought he did a pretty good job for first year on the job.
Look, I know fuck all about business, but this is not just the Maple Leafs. Across the league, there's a bunch of people. I have no clue what they do on a daily basis, and they get paid way more than any of us three. Let's just be honest about that. What do we know about Keith Pelly and the way he operates, though?
Well, he likes to win, and he likes to be in charge. I think that much is clear. I did find it interesting that he came in kind of guns blazing and talking a big game, and he appeared at the locker cleanout last year. And then when he appeared, he said that, defiantly, this is about winning and we got to win. And, it was shot back. It's like one of the reporters said, well, Brendan Shanahan hasn't won as president of this group. And he kind of spun it as, well, he won as a player. Well, I don't think anyone's buying that, right? Like, a Hall of Fame player does not necessarily equal a Hall of Fame executive. So, if Pelly's going to live up to his word, he has to follow through on that and turn this organization into a winning one, and not just one that makes the playoffs every year. It's such a crazy stat. So the Leafs have the longest active playoff streak now that the Bruins missed at 9 years, but they've never been past round 2. Like, I don't know if any sport has had a team like that where you're consistently good, very good, but consistently never great. It's wild.
Well, the playoffs are a different style of hockey than the regular season, aren't they, Luke? But talking about the players is obviously they got to get their ducks in a row up top, but that's probably going to be announced sooner than later. Do you expect some hammers to drop and changes to be made, announcements to come out pretty quickly thereafter?
I would think so. I mean, I wonder about a Friday news dump, or even if it takes a little bit longer and it's like a weekend news dump Sunday. I don't have a firm grasp. I just know that, when there's this many voices, it's like a giant ship, right? It takes a long time to steer it, as opposed to something more streamlined. So, I feel like this could get buried out over the weekend or Friday.
Surprise, surprise. And Luke, you're around this team 24/7. Did you do some soul searching after Game 7 and wonder and look in the mirror and be like, am I too tough on these guys? You want to weigh in on the whole media circus bullshit? I guess Matthew Tkachuk, he's our voice of reason. He knows everything about this market, right?
Well, it's so funny, right? I feel like Marchand and Tkachuk, what they do on the ice, they just did to the market. Like, they know how to get under their opponent's skin And it's like, that's what they did to Leaf fans. They knew how to get under Leaf fans' skin. Ultimate troll job. I do think there was an element of sincerity, kind of like, I'm going to stick up for my hockey brethren. And it's really easy to do that when you've just eliminated them, right?
Sure.
Just made them look bad on the ice. You could say, like, you always give the comp, like, okay, so when I'm playing my son in 21 and I kick his butt, I'm like, oh, buddy, you're really close. You're really good, right? It felt like one of those things. Oh, it's the fans' fault. These guys are good. But yeah, I think he played the market to a T, and it was a bit of a distraction from the fact that, these guys didn't perform. They're making bad pinches. They're getting out attempted 25-0 to start the game. They're no response when they get scored on, shriveling from the moment. It kind of took away from the real issues.
Foxy, was there any part of you that wanted to ask the follow-up to the too many passengers comment? Like, who were you talking about specifically? Was there any part of you like, damn, I'd love to ask that question?
Yeah. I don't think we'd get an answer. He's not going to start listing off his teammates. That would be quite the move from a captain. But yeah, it definitely raised an eyebrow, right? For sure.
Foxy, maybe you don't want to go into it, but what's your prediction on what's going to happen to this organization in the next handful of weeks?
Well, I think it starts with Shanahan going, restructuring or streamlining of the head office, and then maybe it's searching for another president type or GM. I don't know. I just wonder if they would, they have the money. Would they try to poach someone from another team? Like, I know there was some level of interest in Doug Armstrong in the past, and I know he's passing the baton. He's got one more year before he gives it to Alex Steen, but he's a guy that I don't know if there was any way to try and convince him to hang on, like someone like that, that's not afraid of the bold move, that has a vision, that has experience. I don't think you throw a rookie into that position, but if there's a way to pry a guy like that, Ken Holland, but he just committed. Like, there's not many candidates out there, but I wonder if they search for a different face of it, or if it's just direct Pelly to Trey Living. So you have to figure the top out first, and then you get into, the urgent business on Marner. All signs point to him leaving. He sounds like a guy who's already decided he's going, even though he hasn't said that explicitly. Do you salvage and trade his rights? Jake Gensel got traded for a third. Like, do you get something? I know it's not great asset management, but do you look, is there any way around that? And then, of course, Tavares, you got to figure out. You have to have a game plan here. And I don't think it should be just for this summer, because if you look at the summer of 26, there's some really intriguing free agents. So do you have like a 2-year plan in terms of how you're going to set yourself up and use that cap space that Marner's probably going to leave for you?
To your point about the president, I go bigger. There's a guy in Tampa who's the head coach there, who's an absolute stallion, coaches Team Canada, John Cooper. I think go big or go home. They clearly have money to spend. And since you opened that can of worms, you're obviously talking about Kirill Kaprizov, right? No, I'm kidding. You're talking about Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid,
Yeah.
like, is there any point in even having this conversation, you think, over the next couple months?
Yeah, I mean, it's too early, right? And the guy's trying to win a Western Conference final, but you saw that third period. Like, what is going through his mind when he's playing his butt off, and he's like, video game Connor, like, and they still lose that game because they can't get a kill, they can't get a save when they need it, right? Like, I just wonder what's going through his mind. So I don't know if a cup would make it easier for him to leave, because he can say mission accomplished. Maybe I'll try to win a second one somewhere else. Or if it makes him say, hey, we got a good thing going. I love Leon. It's one of my best friends. We can sort out the goaltending later, and he wants to stay. I don't know. But I don't think it's a guarantee that on July 1st, he re-ups there. And the longer that lingers, the more rumors there will be.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The second he's able to re-sign this max extension or whatever, and he doesn't, the
Yeah.
murmurs are going to start. And then a week goes by, and a month goes by, and 2 months. And then he's getting asked every single day. And then he says, I'm not talking about my contract anymore. I don't want that distraction. And then everyone just starts to panic in Edmonton. Like, don't you think you'll kind of get a semblance of where his head's at kind of sooner than later?
Yeah, because they're going to hand him a blank check, right? Like, he could have got more the last time around. He was just being a nice guy, a team guy, because I really believe yes, he wants, a fair market rate, but I think he's very much in the Sidney Crosby mold where he's smart enough to understand the business and is willing to leave some on the table, because the most important thing to him is team success. He wants that Stanley Cup more than, and like you saw how he reacted when he won the Conn Smythe. It's like, get out of here. I don't even want to accept that trophy. So I think he's smart enough to leave some money on the table. So if the Oilers are going to give him a blank check for 8 more years and let him retire and hang 97 from the rafters, and if that's not signed by mid-July, August, it's just going to get louder and louder. And it's not just Toronto because he's from here. It'll be every team, right? Because he changes you instantly.
The Leafs can't tamper, Foxy, but I know who can, and that's the media. So get to work at Sportsnet.ca. McDavid at Toronto. Appreciate your time today. Great job, bud.
All right. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs, guys. Thanks.
You as
Thanks,
well.
man.
Take care, bud. That is Luke Fox of Sportsnet.ca, man. Again, Leafs can't tamper, but we could say McDavid at Toronto every day on this podcast, Rosie, and I will, quite frankly.
I've had Oilers fans legitimately snap at me for bringing that up,
I
kind of
know.
half joking, half serious, and they're legit upset by it. I just, that city and that would be to me the big kicker is to allow him to leave is to win the Stanley Cup. He can say mission accomplished. He can say, I love you. Here's what I brought you. Enjoy this thing for many years to come. They'd put a statue beside Wayne. Fantastic. And then he could go to where he wanted to easily if that is in fact what he wants. I think that, he's always going to be welcome in Edmonton, but if he leaves them kind of high and dry, especially if he leaves for nothing, who knows, right? But I just would love to know where his head's at. I can't wait to see that, play out. It would be kind of anticlimactic if he just went and he signed an 8-year deal and it was over. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be the next big hot topic after July 1 to watch this guy.
I got to a dark place last night, I won't lie, where I started talking myself into trading Marner's rights in a deal for Connor McDavid. So that's where I was last night.
Marner's
rights.
I was having thoughts of, a sign and trade with okay, Edmonton signs McDavid with the 8th year, trades him to Toronto for Willie Nylander, and then at least they get something for him and make the fans say, hey, here's something exciting that's gonna help out. Do you think something wild like that? Man, we're really
never. I mean, we always say Gretzky got traded, but if I'm the Leafs, I'm just waiting until this guy's a free agent. I don't need to pounce, man. Come home, baby. Come home. You got that in your back pocket. He's from Toronto. He's a Leafs guy. He was a Leafs fan growing up, man. Just, you're right. The longer it goes, he's a type of player. He'll write his own check, man. He know there is no there's no conversation that needs to be had with the agents and the team being like, hey, we're here, but where are you guys? No. How much money does he want? Put pen to paper on it. That's it. That's why if it gets past July 1, then there's some serious issues brewing there, man. I'll tell you that. And that is my hope as a Leafs fan and covering this Leafs team. But anyways, thank you to Luke Fox for dropping by. The other thing I wanted to get to, any qualms with Nylander going off to the World Championships, and your boy David Kampf, man, he's going to be a bit rusty, but playing for Czechia.
Yeah, cool. No, I don't like the World Championships. I don't even pay attention. They're going on during this. What do they mean? What does it mean if you win it? It means nothing. Almost everyone is playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Then guys are coming late to the team to help. It's just ridiculous. I would feel better if they held this thing in like June and they kind of had everybody and it meant something and it was literally your Canadian squad. But like, who is on the team year to year? Nobody really knows. Like, some people obviously do, but I can't get behind it that much. I think it's great if you want to go wear that sweater and wear your country's colors. It's awesome, but just the timing of it during the Stanley Cup playoffs to me I can't get behind it.
It's like their biggest, most favorite tournament in Europe, if you can believe it.
Well,
like
I know. I mean,
yeah.
Czech wins the thing and they act like they won the Summit Series or the Olympic gold, and we're over here going, sorry, all of our players that they're playing for this trophy that everyone really wants. I always laugh at they act over in Europe like they win the Stanley Cup when they win that thing, and it's like, you didn't beat the country's best, not even by a long shot.
It's interesting, isn't it? In support of Sick Kids, Michael, thank you so much for the super chat. Guys, if you had a choice to keep one of the core four, which one will you keep? 88, who will score 3 goals in the game, then 4 games at 0 points, 34 often heard, who had 4 goals in 23 playoff games, or 16. I guess you could include Tavares in that conversation too. But for me, it's still Matthews, dude. Like, 69 goals. I think it's a recency bias. He wasn't the same guy this year, but when he's on top of his game, he is one of the best players on the planet. I can be firm in saying that.
Yeah, I know it's tough, and it sucks that it's even a question or a conversation with your elite franchise tagged players, and you got to ask which one you'd rather get rid of, and it's not where you want to be.
No.
All of them have such great upside, and their good is so good. It's just always been the consistency has been a problem, and the grit and the leadership and the ability to rise up and be a man has always kind of been in question with this group. And obviously Mitch Marner, that's very much in question for him, more so the grit and grind and the style of play has always been a question mark for him, and his contract is up. So that's why his name is everywhere right now, but they all need to be a lot better. And, it's not going to be the core 4 anymore, or the core 3, even if John Tavares re-signs, it's going to be for maybe less than half of what he makes right now. So right there, people are like, you can't bring him home. You didn't win with him. It's like, well, it's a completely different circumstance. You're not giving him $11 million anymore, and he's not your second line center, first unit PP guy anymore. Yeah. He has gotten, switched and moved around in the depth chart. But the good thing to me, which I want to keep John Tavares, is you can still get all the good things out of John Tavares, but at way less of a cap hit, and he's not like your star, kind of one of your star centers anymore. So it makes sense to me. John, I would like to re-sign just because I think if what he's willing to possibly take, you can't go and get that. And people are saying that about Mitch Marner, but again, too many eggs in one basket with too many of the same style of players. You got to go out there and try to make your team more well-rounded, more playoff performance ready.
Last but not least, last super chat, John Gallagher, in support of Sick Kids. Save me, McJesus. You are my only hope. Yes, I think we all feel that way, but he is one player of a 23-man roster.
I wish it was this year, man.
I know.
Would have been good timing.
That cooked me a bit. I was thinking yesterday, I'm like, dude, we got to wait. We got to wait a whole year to have these combos again. Can they push through in the Stanley Cup playoffs? That always eats me alive, man.
Oh, I know. Like when it's over and you're like, we got to start all over again. It's
like, here I go again. I have to materialize these combos with Rosie. The regular season doesn't matter. He's going to roll his eyes at me and get pissed off. Like, we're doing this all again in September and October. Was
that a subtle jab that regular season doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. It's about it's about the 2 months in the playoffs. I could care less if Matthews comes back and scores 55 goals. Like, it's going to be tough to watch 82 games again, man. Like,
well, I'm hoping that you're really going to be looking at a different DNA, a different style of play, to be proud of the team and the big bad Leafs, and honestly playing more Florida Panthers style hockey, and maybe getting some blowouts going, and the statistics are flowing in. And oh my God, we've never seen a group more in tune with each other and more on the same page. And it seems like every game they're just building this identity. Like, I don't mind getting behind that if that is indeed what they're going to start building.
I think it's wishful thinking. I don't think there's that many big names available in free agency. I don't know who's coming to this tire fire right now.
The next year is hot. I thought this year was
Yeah.
the heaviest free
No,
agency
it's
ever. I don't know
next
where I
year.
got that from, but next year is just like, what are we talking about? Gross time of year, man.
Yeah, I know the weather too, and I was laughing. I saw like the ticker, and it's like this is the coldest spell in May since 1967 in Toronto. I guess that's the silver lining. They would be hosting Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight. It's miserable outside. It's like 8 degrees. It's cold. It's damp. It's wet. It's rainy. So there's your silver lining. Want to get in the action for Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you from game props, player props, totals, and the money line. You could even bet on futures like series winners, conference champions, the Stanley Cup champions, and much, much more. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connexontario.ca. Keeping it simple today. It's Game 2 of the ECF. I'm taking the Panthers plus money. I just think they're on a roll, and they're the better team in this series.
Of course, that's my exact play. Panthers money line. See you tomorrow. Like it's they're monsters, man. Panthers money line. That's my bet.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's a fair bet. I think there's value. I just think they're better than the Canes. We talk all these numbers, and you're not stats guy, but I think it's like 13 straight losses in the Eastern Conference Final for the Canes. Like they're in trouble.
Swept
man.
Every time they've been there, haven't they?
Yeah. Well,
hell,
yeah,
take him on the puck line then, and see if Freddie Anderson his knees start to wobble a little bit against that team. But we'll see. I've said it since day one, man. I think that team is unstoppable.
Fair enough. I'm still backing my Oilers. If they can't get a save, I think say 2. That's it. That's all. But maybe they have an epiphany, or Cal Pickard comes back and they can get a save, and maybe they can win a cup. And the only reason why I want them to win a cup, well, A, I got money on them, and B, I think if they win a cup, it's better news for McDavid potentially hitting free agency and just coming on home, baby.
True.
Love McJesus in that Maple Leafs uniform. So, Rosie, that's going to do it for you for this week. I believe we don't have a show on Monday. I guess it depends, too. If, there's a news drop over the weekend, maybe we come at you with a show. We were going to take a day to ourselves next week. But at any which way, we'll talk early next week, okay?
Yeah, something busts out. Maybe we can drop a video or break some news or do some of that stuff. We're always available to our beloved fans.
We are, and speaking of which, Carter Hutton will co-host tomorrow's show, and I've confirmed Darren Dreger of TSN is going to drop by tomorrow's show. So we're going to drop on the very latest and talk all the news and hoopla and the rumors, maybe even McDavid too. So how about that? Insider
Central on this show. Love it, boys. Enjoy.
It's your one-stop shop for all things Toronto Maple Leafs. That's Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you as well to producer Vic. And we'll talk tomorrow. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.